Namaste, it's Sahara Rose, and welcome back to the Highest Self podcast, a place where we discuss what makes you your soul's highest development. Guys, girls, everyone listening, I am so excited that you're here. Welcome to the Highest Self podcast, and I'm so excited to share with you this week's episode. Do you want to know why? Because it is about a book, Cancer Free with Food, written by one of my dearest friends that was actually written because of a conversation, long conversations that I had with her. And I'm smiling ear to ear right now because she recently came over to show me this book in real life. And she said, open up the acknowledgements. So I opened up the acknowledgements. And the very first thing I see is, thank you to Sahara Rose for igniting the passion and confidence within me to go forward with this important subject matter, talking about healing cancer and sharing these recipes. I have never had a book acknowledged to me before in my life. And this is a book that I am so excited to share with you today. So it started with a conversation with Liana was staying at my house like 2 years ago, and she personally overcame cancer when she was 21 years old. And how did she overcome cancer? Through changing her diet, through foods, which sounds extremely controversial, but many, many people are doing the same. So she completely changed her diet, and her cancerous tumor essentially became benign. And, you know, when I met her and I heard this, I was like, girl, you need to be sharing this with people. Like, this needs to be the work that you were putting out there. This is your dharma. It's not everyone healed cancer. This is your thing. And, you know, it's the fears of, oh, well, what if people don't like it? Or what if they, you know, there's actually a lot of haters when it comes to a subject like this because it's so sensitive. And we all know someone who's been affected by cancer. Many of us have lost people close to us with cancer. So many people get triggered to hear that you can heal cancer in some cases with food. So clearly there were tons and tons of fears, which totally made sense. But I kept on encouraging her, like, this is your dharma. This is why you're here. You need to share this work. Like, it's not telling people to not do chemo. It's not telling people to not listen to their doctors. It's just adding the emphasis on food and how food can be used as medicine to heal something as severe as cancer. And I'm so excited that she listened and that book came to life and is sitting right in front of me and can be sitting right in front of you very soon because it is out in bookstores everywhere. Cancer Free with Food by Liana Werner-Gray. So in this episode, I chat with Liana all about her own struggles with cancer, how she was addicted to junk food, why she was addicted to it, the emotional causes. You know, why do we go into this ravenous binge where we can't eat enough? Well, it has nothing to do with the food and everything to do with what's going on deeper. And we discuss different ways of healing cancer with food, how there's no one size fits all, from the Ayurvedic approach to the juicing approach to everything in between. And what I love about this book is it's not telling you that this is the one way to eat to heal cancer, but rather it shows you myriad of different ways that people have been healing cancer. And I actually share my khichdi recipe in this book. So definitely check that out. And I share about the Ayurvedic approach to healing cancer and how cancer is considered an imbalance of all three doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Doshas are the energy type. So when all three are out of balance for a very long time, cancer ensues because your body essentially is not able to do its job to be able to heal itself. So we talk about what are the number one most cancerous foods. And again, this isn't just for if you have cancer, but all of us should be eating a cancer preventing diet. So adding things like broccoli sprouts. I just opened up the page to her zucchini pasta with broccoli sprouts pesto, which just sounds beautiful and amazing. And these are incredible foods, incredible nutrients that you can put into your body to start healing it, preventing disease, anything that could be coming for you. We can help address it with our diet. Most of all, she makes it fun. Like you'll hear, she's a very fun, energetic, beautiful person who grew up in the outback of Australia, and I'm so excited to share her message and her book with you. Without further ado, let's welcome Liana Werner-Gray to the Highest Self podcast. And before we get started, check out these brands that make Highest Self podcast possible. This episode is brought to you by Four Sigmatic. Four Sigmatic is an incredible mushroom elixir company. I proudly drink their elixirs every single day. My favorite is their chai mix. It is insanely delicious. I quit chocolate cold turkey, and what helped me was drinking this chai mix every day. And best of all, they use stevia to sweeten it, and there's no sugars like the chai lattes you'll find at Starbucks or wherever else. And the mushrooms are really good for balancing your hormones, helping heal adrenal fatigue, healing your body on an adaptogenic level. So adaptogens really kind of relate to what your body needs. So if you are high stress, it will bring you down. If you need more energy, it will bring you up. And that's what's so amazing about adaptogens. They adapt to your body, and mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms, have a lot of adaptogenic properties. So you can head over to their website, foursigmatic.com, foursigmatic.com/Sahara. I have a little shop up there with my favorite Four Sigmatic products. So you can try it out, and you can also get 15% off any Four Sigmatic product using the code Sahara. Welcome, Liana, to the Highest Self podcast. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you so much, Sahara, for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yay. Well, the first question I would love to ask you is, what makes you your highest self?
Well, I feel like that's for me being just really full in every moment. So I can definitely feel when I'm not my highest self, when I'm kind of out of it, I feel really stiff and rigid, almost like I'm being paralyzed with fear, and I'm aware of it. And I'm like, oh, this doesn't feel good. And I don't want to talk to everyone. I feel closed off, and I'm definitely not being my highest self, but sometimes very hard to break out of, versus when I am being my highest self, which is just like fully open, being expressive, being full of love, and really just taking in the moment, no matter where I am, especially if I'm not with my family or friends, if I'm, say, at an airport, if I'm traveling alone, and just still being my higher self at that moment, even if it's waiting for my bags to come. You know, I'm around a bunch of strangers, but just being there, like being full, like how can I be fully present here in this moment with these people?
I love that, the feeling of fullness and wholeness and completion. And so many of us were walking around like half of ourselves at any given moment.
Yeah, which isn't a good feeling, but I've learned to accept that feeling a lot more lately and be like, okay, I'm not at my highest self right now, but I know I will be at my highest self again soon. It could be in 1 minute, it could be in an hour, it could be in 2 days. And just knowing that that moment's going to come soon, and not beating myself up for not being in my highest self, and then just taking that moment as a lesson of like, okay, well, what got me to here to lead to me not being in my highest self, so that I can strive to living in my highest self and my fullest self, and being present as much as possible, because that definitely is the ultimate goal.
For sure. Well, I'm sure a massive awakening moment for you of not being your highest self is when you found out that you had a cancerous tumor when you were 21 years old, right?
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, so that definitely was a huge wake-up call. I was 21 and was thinking, I was in hospital, and just had a biopsy done, which was so painful. You know, they put a needle in my neck to numb the area, and I had a golf ball sized tumor bulging out of the right side of my neck. And then they took another needle and pulled a piece of it out, which was traumatic. I just can remember feeling that piece of the tumor from my neck just being like ripped out. And I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done to myself? And I knew that I had done it to myself, because 5 years leading up to that, I ate complete junk food, and I would binge eat. I was so impulsive. Every time I had a craving for bad food, junk food, fried food, chocolate, sweets, I would have to go and get that fix. It was like completely obsessive, and my whole day would revolve around getting that sugar fix. It was just this, like having a drug addiction or an alcohol problem, but it was with food. And so for those 5 years, I was just completely destroying and just trashing my body. And I knew that it was wrong because I wasn't getting any nutrition from it at all, but I wasn't going to stop that lifestyle because I didn't have a reason to. And also I tried to give it up. Every Monday came and I was like, okay, it's Monday. I'm going to start fresh and I'll never eat junk food ever again. I'll never eat gummy bears again, and I'll be healthy and I'll resist temptation. And then, you know, Monday would come and those temptations and those feelings were so strong, and they would just take over me, and then I would find myself in that same vicious cycle. And it was a living nightmare every single day, like for 5 years. And I know some people out there have suffered for 10, 15, maybe even 20 years with a health issue or an eating disorder, and that is a long time, but 5 years was really a long time, and I was just so sick of suffering. So that wake-up call was truly a blessing in disguise in the end.
I love that. And I love how, you talk about it being a living nightmare, because a lot of people would be like, oh my God, you ate like junk food and candy and all this good stuff all the time. Like, that sounds awesome, but it's actually a nightmare because you have no control over it anymore. It's like something larger than you is choosing for you.
Yeah.
And not choosing for your greater good.
Right. And also, I mean, yeah, it's 5 minutes of total bliss, but then after that it's hours of having to digest that food, and the crash and the tiredness, and you could feel the lymphatic system like working overtime to try and drain out all the toxins. And yeah, it was an up and down. It wasn't consistent health or consistent good feeling at all. It was like feeling really, really high and really like powerful and great and energized, and then feeling like total like low, like in a hell pit.
So when you found out that you had that cancerous tumor, what prompted you to decide to change your lifestyle?
Well, I would say my upbringing had a huge role in that, because I grew up in outback Australia with the Indigenous people, which I look back now and I'm so grateful that I ended up there and that my soul really chose that place to live and be born. So I knew that growing up with the Indigenous people, like they taught us from age 5 that the healthiest way for us to eat was to go out to our own backyard, go out to the bush, go to the outback and find our own food. So find food in the ground, from the trees, pick it from the bush. And we were taught that that food had the most nutrition per calorie, and that food also gave us energy because it was alive. So that food had spirit. And so when I was eating that junk food for all those years, I knew that I was not eating food that had spirit at all. And it was just like dead matter. So when I was in hospital, I was like, okay, I really need to go back to my roots and go back to nature and apply everything that I learned. But I thought, how can I do that in this modern world? Because I'm at university and I'm living a fast-paced life, and I lived in a high-rise building, wasn't grounded at all. And I was like, how can I apply what I learned about eating straight from nature into this modern, fast-paced world? That's basically what I did next. And I surrendered and asked that question. And, I love that saying, when we ask, we receive. We really do. And even though I felt like I was asking for that 5 years when I was suffering, I was like, how can I break free of this? How can I break out of it? I finally got that answer after I really hit that rock bottom and just fully opened up and fully surrendered. And that's also something I've gotten used to lately, is like getting used to being okay with not being in control of everything, or even if things feel messy, still going about my day and still going about what I know I need to get done anyway. So basically surrendered. And then one day I had this light bulb go off, like, okay, create a blog, call it the Earth Diet, and go back to nature and eat only foods that come from the earth for 365 days. And so I thought, whoa, okay, yes, that's so exciting. That's what I'm going to do. And then every time I have a craving, I'll find a way to replace that craving with something healthy using some wholesome ingredients. And this was 10 years ago now. And also it was in Australia. So we didn't have a Whole Foods. And we had one health food store in the town I was living in, which I had to take a 40-minute bus ride to go to. So I couldn't just go and like buy chocolate and, chocolate peanut butter cups and gluten-free gummy bears. So I got into the kitchen and started making all these recipes. So when I had a craving for chicken nuggets, I would make chicken and then I would coat it with some eggs, some turmeric, some almond flour, and some sea salt. And I had these crispy, golden, crunchy chicken nuggets. And that helped me not crave KFC. And then I would make chocolate peanut butter cups and chocolate brownies with cacao powder, almond flour, and honey. And that helped me not crave a whole block of Cadbury chocolate and Tim Tams. So all of those foods and getting in the kitchen, using my healing energy in my hands, which we all have, the healing energy in our hands, I started to just really nourish my body. And I also started juicing. So I drank up to 6 juices a day. So after 3 months of this complete pivot, the tumor had completely dissolved. And this was a 3.7 centimeter tumor, completely dissolved.
That's amazing. I'm sure the doctors were like, what did you just do to yourself?
Well, the original doctors that I went to, I left because they, were offering me surgery and conventional methods, which I don't, at the time I just didn't believe in for myself. So then I went to work with a naturopath and a doctor who was actually healing people with cancer using the vitamin C IV drips. And so he believed in my case, and he's like, oh yeah, I've seen this before. You're fine. It's not stage 4 cancer. It's not like advanced cancer. Like, yeah, you can beat this. He gave me that confidence that I could beat that. So he wasn't surprised like a medical doctor would be completely surprised.
That's amazing. It's so makes such a life-changing difference when you have that level of support. So now you have your new book coming out, Cancer Free with Food, which I'm super excited about because about 2 years ago, you were here staying at my house and we were just talking about like purpose and what we're each working on. And you were working on like your whole weight loss, like website and all these things, coaching you were doing. And I was like, no, you need to do more about the cancer stuff. Like you need to talk about like your dharma is to help other people do this because it's something that you've gone over through yourself. And I remember you were saying, well, it's so controversial and I don't know if I'm ready for it. I mean, it's such a huge issue. And I was like, who else could be more ready for it than someone who's firsthand overcome it? So to be here, seeing this book in front of me is like so crazy.
Surreal, right?
And she just showed me, guys, today is my first time seeing the book. She's like, look at the acknowledgments. And I looked at it. The first thing it says, thank you to Sahara Rose. I've never been in an acknowledgments ever before, for igniting the passion and confidence in me to go forward with this important subject matter, talking about healing cancer and sharing these recipes. So, wow. I like literally have never been part of any acknowledgments in my life. So this means everything, and to be part of such a book that's going to change so many people's lives, because I think all of us know someone with cancer. I mean, all of us probably know someone close to us with cancer, and it's a massive epidemic. And it seems to be like growing and growing every day. I mean, I hear about people who get cancer, including like my babysitter who I was so close with growing up. And I've talked to you, I was like, how could this happen? She's such a good person and she's so pure and she's so kind and loving. And how could this happen to her? And I think now more and more is coming out about even just like the spiritual and emotional causes that we hold on to that can manifest as cancer. So can you share more about that side?
Yeah. So for me, if I look back at why I started to binge eat in the first place, there was an emotional, spiritual, mental reason for that. So I definitely believe in the concept that cancer is a spiritual disease and it's also a disease in the soul. So there's more to heal than just the food aspect, and food definitely is medicine, and different food has imprints from different planet and the solar system and the stars, and so that really can contribute to our healing as well, and that helps our soul. But there definitely is a lot of soul work to be done. And one of the people I interviewed for this book was Anita Morjani. And I love her story, which actually ended up getting cut from the book because the book originally, when I submitted it, was 140,000 words. And now it's 70,000 words. So we had to make it smaller. But that's as bonus material. So people who buy the book get that bonus. I didn't want it to go to waste. But Anita Morjani's story is amazing because she ended up with 24 tumors the size of lemons in her body. Like, how can you even have 24 tumors in your body? Is crazy, right? And so she was basically in a coma, and the doctors told her husband, like, get her affairs in order. You know, she's definitely not going to be coming back from this. But when Anita was in the coma, she had that near-death experience that completely shifted everything. And for her, she said she went and she connected with her father, she connected with her, loved ones. And what she realized was that she was creating all of her suffering, and she just had so much bad energy and toxicity in her body from her emotional state that she was creating the tumors and the cancer. And she learned in that near-death experience that it was all about love. This whole experience here on earth was all about love, loving herself, loving other people, loving being here on earth, loving the journey. And when she realized, she said that just clicked, and she was like, oh, well, I'm going to go back to earth now. I'm going to go back and I'm going to be good and be healthy. So she came back into her body, and, she woke up and the doctors were like, whoa, okay, she's awake. And then after 4 days, she walked out of hospital. She was good to go, and the tumors were dissolving like rapidly. The doctors couldn't believe it. And even now, there's been so many studies done on her, and, you know, doctors are baffled by it because they can't understand it. Like we understand it, you and I, and people listening to this podcast, because we're all on that kind of wavelength. So we get it. Like, yeah, of course you can heal a tumor with your feelings and your thoughts and your emotions and your spiritual. But, you know, to the medical community, we sound like complete whack jobs. And even now, even though everything's recorded with Anita Morjani, you know, probably still people don't believe it, even though it's recorded. So that's a great lesson, that it's really never, ever too late to heal something, especially as severe as cancer. Also in that chapter that was deleted, that's still available as bonus content, is prayers for people with cancer and affirmations for people with cancer. So one of them is just like placing your hand on wherever the cancer is, whether it's the neck, the breast, the ovary, and just saying, who is it that I need to forgive, or what do I need to forgive? And just placing your hand there and asking that question and seeing like what comes up. Because you might be really surprised at what the messages you'll get back. It could be like, okay, I need to forgive so-and-so for something they said like 10 years ago. And that can really start a major, major healing process.
It reminds me of this like ancient Hawaiian prayer, the Ho'oponopono. I don't know if you've heard of it. And it's, please forgive me, I forgive you, I thank you, I love you. And you just keep on repeating it. And you can think about different people in your life, your parents, your ex, your anyone, and just keep on saying that. And you see it brings up so many emotions. You may think, I don't need to forgive anyone about anything. I'm all good. I don't care. But there's so many little grudges that we hold and so many things we feel guilty about. And if we don't bring them to light, it can manifest as cancers within us, whether it's actual cancer or a cancer in more of a metaphysical sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's even that saying like cancer in the wallet. Like if you're financially struggling all the time and constantly out of money, they say like that's having cancer of the money. And I believe that like we didn't come here on this earth to suffer. We came here to thrive and be abundant in all areas of our life. So if we're deprived in one area, whether it's our health, our relationships, our finances, our career, then that's something to look at and to start to heal so we can like balance it out. So in every area of our life, it's full. You know, we want our cup to be full.
So many things. So what are other, practices, unconventional things that we probably don't hear about that people can use and benefit from to help heal cancer?
Well, one of them is to like speak to the plants and the food when we're eating it. And, whenever we get a cut or like a bruise, like say we like cut our arm and it starts bleeding, the first thing we do is put our hand there to like stop the bleeding, right? And to make the area feel better. Or if we run past something and we like bump our leg into it and it's like, that hurts. The first thing we do is we put our hand there in that area, is because naturally we all have healing energy in our hands. So if someone has cancer, we really need to go back and like nourish the body and take care of ourselves. So getting back into the kitchen and using your own healing hands helps so much. And just talking to the plants, like for example, broccoli sprouts is listed as number 1 as the top anti-cancer food in my book. And that was from all the research I did. I wanted to do a lot of research for this book so that it was also backed by science, because we know that eating chlorophyll and eating greens is obviously good for our body, but why? And what are the science studies that have been done that prove that it does work? So out of all the studies I did, I wanted to find what is the number 1 most effective food on earth that is actually killing cancer cells and reducing tumors. And I found out that it's actually broccoli sprouts, which is so fascinating to me. And broccoli sprouts are really high in sulforaphane, which is what kills the cancer cells and reduces tumors. And they've done many studies in rats and in mice and in humans, and they'll just inject sulforaphane straight into the tumors, and every single tumor reduces. every single one. So if I got diagnosed with cancer today, that's something I would definitely do, is start basically overdosing my system on broccoli sprouts and getting that sulforaphane into the body. Because if we're pumping sulforaphane into the body, literally cancer doesn't have a place to stick, doesn't have a home, it can't grow, and it must die and just move on. So with that, with eating the broccoli sprouts or putting them in the smoothies or juicing them or adding them to salads or soups, or even just having them in a greens powder, mixing it in water, just talking to the broccoli sprouts and being like, hey, broccoli sprouts, what's up? You look amazing. I can see how green and vibrant you are. Wow, you're so energetic and you look so alive and so green. And I can see all that sulforaphane, that chlorophyll, like you're just going to enter my body and you're just going to go in and you're just going to like zap those cancer cells away, and you're just going to go in there and just like pulverize them, just going to be like poof, and then they're gone. Just like really like get into the deepness with the plants on that level, because the plants really are medicine. And the indigenous people, they believe that too, that you talk to the plants, talk to the trees, ask for their help and connect with them in that way. You're going to have a very powerful response, especially with drinking it. So say I'm drinking the broccoli sprout juice now, I'm just like, wow, okay, yep, I can feel it. Okay, you're going down my esophagus, you're going to my stomach, now you're in my bloodstream, now you're clearing out that cancer that's in my gut. Yeah, so that's one way to go into the spiritual part of side of with plants.
And good for all of us, whether you have cancer or not, to just like talk to food and have a relationship. I mean, even just like, I feel like taking 5 seconds even before I eat a meal to just be like, thank you for this food. Thank you to the plants for giving your life for me to be a healthier person. Thank you to the farmers who made the food. Thank you to the earth for sustaining it. Anything just makes me just a little bit more present and a little bit more able to really, I just noticed such a difference in like how I'm eating versus if I just go from what I was doing to straight eating to taking 5 to 10 to whatever amount of time you can to just bless your food, let alone if when I'm cooking my food, that's a whole other level, because the whole time I can be blessing it from the moment that I pick it at the farmer's market. Like, I choose you to come home with me, and like, come on.
I choose you. Yeah, do you
coming
choose me?
home.
Yeah.
Welcome. Yep. I'm going to give you a bath.
Yeah, love it.
And you can be blessing it the whole time. And, now I feel like soon there will be studies about just the phytochemical difference between food from restaurants versus food that you made yourself, simply from the process of you being involved in the step-by-step creation. Because people at restaurants, they're not blessing your food. They don't care. They're stressed out. If you ever worked at a restaurant, you'll see that. So just involving ourselves in the process.
Yeah, that would be a great study for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, one thing I love to do at the, if I'm at Whole Foods or Farmers Market, I'll be like, okay, which one of you cauliflowers like wants to come home with me? Like shine. And there's always one that'll just like shine, or like same with the carrots of like, okay, which one of you carrots like wants to come home? Like,
I love it. It's so good. And yeah, and even like looking at the vibrance of the greens, like when I'm like that person who's like staring out the cilantro, like which one looks the greenest, and I have to get that one because it's really alive. He's
it's
ready
like
for it.
Speaking at you. Yeah.
Okay, if you're anything like me, you buy green juice, spend way too much money on it, and then forget to drink it, and it sits in your fridge. Ever happened to you? No, just me? Okay, well, I got your solution, and it is called Organifi. So Organifi is a gently dried superfood mix that has real green ingredients like moringa, chlorella, mint, spirulina, beets, matcha, wheatgrass, ashwagandha, turmeric, lemon, coconut water, all dried up. So all you have to do is add water. Yes, you do not have to use a blender. You do not have to spend $12 on a juice. You don't have to go shopping, anything, and you get all of your superfoods in one drink. They also have an amazing red juice, which is like a tart, sweet little brew, as well as Organifi Gold, which has our favorite, turmeric. So I love these. They're all USDA certified organic, and I literally travel with them and have them at home every day. So head over to Organifi.com, Organifi.com, and use code Sahara for 20% off. Again, Organifi.com, and use code Sahara for 20% off your delicious green juice magic. Are you interested in having a career focused on health and wellness? Well, if so, then the universe is calling you to become a holistic health coach. I am offering this incredible deal, a discount of $1,500 off my alma mater, Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which is the world's largest nutrition school with guest teachers such as Deepak Chopra, Chris Carr, Dr. Hyman, and Dr. Andrew Whale, and so many others. It is split between 6 months of health coaching programs teaching you hundreds of nutritional theories, including Ayurveda, as well as 6 months of business coaching. And as an additional bonus, I am offering a webinar where I will teach you how to use social media to create a thriving career as a health coach. On top of that, I have created a private Facebook community just for the Highest Self podcast listeners who are becoming health coaches to connect with each other, meet up with each other, and support one another on this journey. So if you're interested, send an email over to Sahara, Sahara, at eatfeelfresh.com with subject IIN. Again, Sahara at eatfeelfresh.com with subject IIN. And I will personally send you back the email that will allow you to get a $1,500 off discount, as well as my business coaching webinar and the private Facebook group. I'm so excited for you to begin your journey as a health coach. So I'd love to know if right now, let's say you found out that you had cancer, what is that go-to therapy that you would try?
So, well, first I would definitely start incorporating the broccoli sprouts in terms of the food. And then when I was doing the research for the book, I discovered mistletoe therapy, which is so fascinating because in Europe, if you get cancer, especially in Germany, you go to the doctors, they're most likely going to say you're going to do mistletoe therapy. It's the common practice there. It's more common than chemo, radiation, and surgery. They're having high success rate and very low side effects. Unfortunately, it's illegal here in the United States, but people are still finding a way to get it from Germany or Mexico.
How do they take, because the mistletoe is, like the Christmas mistletoe.
Yeah.
So how are they using it?
So they're extracting it and then they'll inject it into your body. Yeah, it's quite toxic, mistletoe, but if you have cancer, it does the opposite. So it's toxic, but when mixed with cancer, it becomes, it kills out the cancer, basically. So, yeah, super fascinating. I've interviewed 2 people that have cancer-free today from using mistletoe therapy. Suzanne Summers also used mistletoe therapy. So if I was diagnosed with advanced cancer, that would be the first thing I would do, would be to go to Germany and do mistletoe therapy for sure. So yeah, if anyone's listening who has been diagnosed with cancer, if you haven't chosen a treatment plan yet, definitely look more into mistletoe therapy.
So can you also speak to us about the Gerson therapy?
Yeah, so Gerson therapy is another one that's been really effective. And that's really just about detoxing the body, and with the concept of if you have cancer, you have too many toxins in your body. And that was definitely the case for me. My whole body was swollen. I was 2 sizes heavier than I am now. My skin was yellow because my liver was not functioning properly, was not digesting food. I was really inflamed. I had parasites in my blood. I did a live blood test and I was riddled with parasites. That's when I started drinking bentonite clay, which is another effective thing to purify the body, especially if you have cancer. But they've done studies that majority of people with cancer have parasites in the body, which totally makes sense, because when you have cancer, it almost feels like you're being invaded, like something else is taking over your body. You're not in control of your body. So that's the big difference I feel now, 10 years later. I am in control of my body. I have my health and I live in this blissful state of health every single day compared to how much I was suffering. There's a huge, huge contrast with that. So when I basically applied a lot of Gerson to my treatment plan. So Gerson therapy is all about doing colonics and cleaning out the body, so detoxification. So they also believe in bentonite clay, purifying the body. So the colonics definitely helps to just move stuff out of the digestive system. And at that point, my digestive system was not working at all. So I would have a colonic one day and a coffee enema the next day. So I did that every single day for 2 months. So I was on the bed every single day. And, you know, it was a relief because I could feel like it was just moving so much stuff out of my body so quickly. I just felt so toxic, and that was like really helping to clean me out. And then Gerson therapy is also strong on raw vegan and a lot of juicing. So I did incorporate that too. I had 6 juices a day, the vegetable juices. And I knew that by doing 6 juices a day, I was going to truly overdose my system on nutrition. And it had been deprived for so many years. So I knew that that was like the fastest way to get nutrition straight into my blood system. At that time, I couldn't afford the vitamin C IV drips. Like that was just pumping vitamin C straight into the system. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to do it through vegetable juice and put that straight into my system. So 6 juices a day. And I did incorporate a lot of plant-based food. And yeah, Gerson is very effective for a lot of people, especially if people are obese or really overweight and feel like you really need to detox the body. And if you feel like the cancer came from being too toxic, then definitely check out Gerson therapy.
So how can people know, if you find out you have cancer, how can you know what approach is right for you? Because there's an Ayurvedic approach and there's so many, and they contradict with each other. So how can you kind of know?
Yeah. And, they do. Some is like you have to go raw vegan. Some is like there's a Budwick protocol that's where you have cottage cheese and flax oil.
Oh, wow.
All day, every day. Literally, people are healing cancer from eating cottage cheese.
Wow.
Yeah.
With flax oil mixed in it?
Mm-hmm. Flax oil and cottage cheese. Yeah. So if someone gets cancer, I always say you want to learn about everything first, and don't make a decision if you don't have to. Like, put it off as long as you can, because obviously in the conventional methods, like, they will encourage you to do chemo, radiation, surgery. That's what they're trained in. And we have to know that the medical industry is a business. And that's how they make their sales, right? So we already know about those. So you don't really need to learn about those that much more. But learn about everything else. Learn about Ayurvedic, learn about Gerson, learn about raw vegan, learn about paleo, learn about Budwick, learn about colonics, learn about everything that's available to you, because it's like there's 4,000 different tools and we get to pick our toolbox, and different tools work for each of us. Like, it really is a personalized experience, and no one can really sit down and say to you, this is going to be your exact treatment plan, A, B, C, and D, and E. Like, you get to take your health back into your own hands and say, well, okay, I'm going to take on board what everyone's saying, but here's what I feel intuitively. So it really needs to be a personalized plan for every single person. There's no same plan for every single person who gets diagnosed with cancer or tumors. So for me, when I learned about everything, I straight away knew colonics would help. I knew coffee enemas would help. But there are some patients I speak to.
Did you know that before trying it, or did you try it and you felt a lot better, so then you felt like it was right?
I had just heard about them, and as soon as I heard about them and learned the concept and where they came from, especially if the Indians did it or the Aboriginals did it or the Egyptians did it, I straight away thought, oh wow, I resonated with that, and I was like, that is going to work for me. So as soon as I learned about colonics, that the Egyptians would go into the river and use bamboo to really cleanse out their digestive system to keep them fresh, to keep them young, hydrated. I was like, wow, yes, okay, I need that. Same with the bentonite clay. As soon as
how would they use a bamboo? I'm trying to imagine how that works.
Yeah, I don't know what they use for lubricant, but
so they for an bamboo, enema, and then they sit in the river.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to imagine this.
So the picture I got was they would use the bamboo and
then open up
and then put water in there and then hold it for 15, 20 minutes like an enema. And then they would just release
shoot the water through the bamboo.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because it has a hole, right?
Right. So that's very similar to our...
And use the river water?
Yeah.
Huh.
I'm sure the river water back then was a lot cleaner, right? Yeah. And then they're right there at the river, so they could just let it go.
And someone else down the river is doing an enema and uses your water. I just needed a visual of that.
Yeah, thanks for going there, Sahara. Hopefully everyone else loved that detail.
Well, it's interesting because I just did an Ayurvedic Panchakarma, and in that, like the enema is called the Basti, and it's with oil, especially if you're Vata. So I have a lot of Vata and Vata imbalance. So I did 5 oil enemas while I was there. And I was like, well, should I do colonics when I'm back? And they recommended no, because for Vata people, like you're internally dry within. So the water enema would actually make you more dry. So they recommended doing one with oil. At first I was like, this is going to be weird, but I actually liked the feeling of it. You know, it kind of felt like nourishing to have this oil inside of me, because I love having oil on my body because my body just drinks it in because it's so thirsty. The same thing happened with my colon. I was actually able to hold it in overnight multiple times, whereas some people, like 2 minutes, they're immediately going to the bathroom because my system needed it. So even the kinds of enemas we do can be different for each person.
Yes, exactly. And we need to keep that in mind when we're healing, that it could be different, and we need to listen to that inside voice. Because I knew also with the bentonite clay, when the naturopath was telling me about it, they're like, see your parasites, like they're invading your blood. Bentonite clay is volcanic ash, and the Indians use it to purify the body, same as the Aboriginal people. And straight away when I saw it, I got goosebumps. And that's another good sign, is when we're learning about different foods or different treatments, if we get goosebumps, that's a great sign of like we're on the right track.
You're like, I need to try that.
That's alignment. Yeah, I need to try that.
And certain things you're like, it doesn't really resonate.
Exactly. The things that don't resonate, then those things we're like, okay, that's probably not going to work for me. And we shouldn't push that. We should really like go with the flow with that. Because Anita Morjani also tried to go raw vegan. Everyone was telling her you have to go raw vegan to heal your cancer. And she said it felt brutal. She felt like she was torturing her body. It felt like against the grain. And she said she got worse and very, very sick. So raw vegan did not work for her. She had to start, when she came out of her coma, start incorporating cooked, healing, warming foods. And that made her feel a lot better. And then when my mum was diagnosed with breast cancer, and very advanced breast cancer, which was very scary and upsetting, we sat down with her and we're like kind of freaking out, like, okay, what do you want to do? What do you want your treatment plan to do? And at this point, my mum knew all the options, because this was after I had gone through my healing. And my mum said, well, here's what I feel like is right for me. And this is awesome. And this is what I think every person should do, right? So she said, I definitely cannot do chemo radiation. She said, I cannot imagine putting myself through that. I just feel like my body has been so like drained. And if I do that, I just feel like I won't survive. But she said, I do want to do surgery. I want to have everything removed from both breasts. I want to cut everything out, because then I feel like it's gone. I'm going to start fresh. She said, I know that it's possible to heal it without surgery, but I just don't feel like I have the willpower or the energy to do that. And I would feel more confident if I had surgery and was to have it taken out. And then she said, and then I'm also going to address the nutritional part of it. So I'll start juicing, I'll quit smoking, I'll quit drinking alcohol. So that's what she did. And she also started drinking diatomaceous earth. See, the diatomaceous earth worked more for my mum than the bentonite clay, because diatomaceous earth is ground up coral, and it really cuts through parasites and toxins like glass. It's very strong. And my mum had a lot of years of alcohol abuse and smoking cigarettes, and some drug stuff there as well. So she felt like that was really purifying her body and cleaning her body out so powerfully. Whereas bentonite clay is more subtle. So it just really depends on the person and where you're at. And my mum is still cancer-free to this day, even though doctors, after 6 months of her opting out of chemo radiation, they kept calling her saying, it's going to come back if you don't do that. Just because you had surgery doesn't mean it's gone. It's going to come back. So they kept, scaring her in that way. And she just said, I just can't do it. I just cannot put my body through that. So
wow, that's so powerful. And thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I think that's so interesting, even the subtlety between diatomaceous earth and bentonite clay, because most of us kind of think of it as the same. It's like a dirt thing, but even just the intricacies between that. I know for Candida, I've tried both of those, and I think the diatomaceous earth seemed really intense, because it was like, I remember the first time I ordered it, they literally brought me like a gardener's bag of diatomaceous earth. I was like, wait, yeah. I eat this. Whereas the bentonite clay is a little smoother. But what I'm wondering is, a lot of people they feel like intuitively, like, I don't know, or like, I can't trust my intuition. So what do you recommend for those people who are just, they're not sure what's the right path? Mm-hmm. How can they figure that out?
Well, someone who's just diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah, I
would say.
Or if you have a family or friend who isn't an intuitive person and you can't make that decision for them.
So definitely would talk to somebody. So whether, it's me, if you talk to me at Complete Wellness, where I work in New York City, I love to talk to people just diagnosed with cancer and come up with a plan where you do feel empowered, because I do believe that's within every person. They just need to be ignited, especially if someone maybe is being beaten down with submission in this world. We're taught to think a certain way, we're taught to feel a certain way. So we're taught like, okay, I don't really know, there's someone else knows best than me. The medical industry knows best than I do. So just having that conversation and kind of coaching to go deep and finding out, I've found that every person really does inside know what to do, or at least get a good start on what to do. And some people are like, I just do feel more confident doing chemo radiation. So let me just like try that. And then I'll say, okay, great. Well, here are some great smoothie recipes and juice recipes that will help you get through it, help protect your liver, help protect your brain while you're going through it. There are other professionals you could talk to as well, like the Gerson therapy. You could talk to, Mark Hyman's people at the Cleveland Clinic. There's a whole host of other cancer experts. Chris Beat Cancer is another great one to talk to. He can help, point you in a right direction as well. There's the Ann Wigmore Center as well, Hippocrates Center. So there's a fair few. I do write about them in the book and have them as a resource section on the website cancerfreewithfood.com. So basically there's plenty of options. So someone should just never feel like stuck. And, my biggest passion is like, I don't want people to die from cancer. I think it's the worst epidemic disease on the planet. It's the worst disease for the body and the soul. It's like the plague. Back in the day, people just dying left, right, and center. And it's just not natural. It's not a natural disease, cancer. It's from environmental stress, toxicity from our food. It's man-created from mental stress. It's just not natural. So as a human species, it's something that I know we can overcome. So we just need to adjust and kind of pivot. We need to pivot our food choices, pivot what we're thinking, pivot our emotional state, and so we can completely transform it and just have a cancer-free world.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for your incredible passion to go into a cause that scares so many people. And it can be even scary being a voice in this because, clearly there are a lot of people with very strong opinions around it, and it is a business too. You're really supporting all of us by going into this. So can you share with us a little bit more about what we can expect in your book, Cancer Free with Food?
Yes. Well, and I just want to acknowledge you too, because when you first were like, you should write something about cancer, I was like, definitely not going to do that, because it is so controversial. And whenever I put something out about cancer, it's like, it is helping a lot of people, but then there's also strong backlash of hate, and, the medical industry does not support it. And it's really intense. And so that's why I thank you first in the book, because you really were the fire. You're like, yes, like you can do this, definitely be a voice in this. And
because you're also like her personality, she's like such a fairy, guys, like that if anyone were to be able to deal with like the hatred and the backlash, like it is Liana, because she's like, what's wrong? Like, let's eat some chocolate and hang out.
I was about to say that.
Like, I feel like you just wouldn't take it to heart. You'd be like, oh, can I give you a hug?
Right.
You're so just like such a light being that if anyone were to be able to go into it, I just imagine you just like this little like fairy with pixie dust. Like, okay, I'm just going to get rid of all the cancer in the world. Okay. Who wants to jump on this trampoline now?
Totally. Yeah, I would love that. Totally. Yeah, when I think about the people I'm writing this for, the people who have been touched by cancer, whether they have a loved one with cancer or they have cancer themselves, then I'm not bothered at all by the hate and the negativity that comes with it, because I know that their lives are being changed just like mine. It's completely different. It's when I focus on the haters and the negative and the criticism, that's where I get stuck and in trouble. So I have to keep reminding myself and keep bringing myself back to the people I wrote this book for, people like yourselves who are listening. So this book is really for people who, one, want to prevent cancer and know about the foods that are really anti-cancer. And if we incorporate these foods for the rest of our life, we definitely reduce our chances of ever getting cancer. And right now we're the generation where the cancer rates are ridiculous. 1 in 2 men are getting diagnosed with cancer and 1 in 3 women. this is crazy. So we really need to like
What are the
pivot.
highest rates of cancer? What types of cancer are they right now?
So skin cancer is number one.
Wow.
And I actually list the top 10 cancers in here as well. And I've got specific foods for specific cancers.
I love that. Seems like breast cancer is a very big one.
Breast cancer is number
Prostate
3.
cancer.
So skin cancer is number 1. Lung cancer is number 2. Then breast, then prostate, and then bowel cancer. So I've got the top 30 cancers, the most common cancers listed in the book here. And then
So is skin cancer mostly, you think, caused by the sun, or what do you think?
I do not believe that it's mostly caused by the sun. In fact, there is a great study that shows that the sunscreens are carcinogenic and actually cause skin cancer. Sunscreen. This is crazy. So I do write about that in the book.
And I know
also.
like a lot of people who, when they wear sunscreen, they actually are more likely to get burned after, because sunscreen doesn't last for that long. Let's say SPF 20 lasts for 20 minutes and et cetera. It's not like you don't put it on in the morning, it lasts you the whole day. So then when they're putting it into their systems, it makes their skin more dependent on the sunscreen. So then they're actually more likely to burn. But when they're not dependent on it anymore, they're less likely to burn. And I know, like, for example, Maria, who's our mutual friend, said she would get like the worst sunburns growing up. So she would always put on all this sunblock and it was this huge thing. And then she kind of slowly transitioned away from that and she's never gotten a sunburn since. Exact same skin. So, but then I hear, you know, the other side of it causes fine lines and wrinkles and all of these things. So it's hard to know. I don't ever wear it, but I also have like dark skin. So it's not really I couldn't get a sunburn. So do you recommend natural sunblocks, or do you think no sunblock?
I think natural sunblocks, like having a balance in the sun is ideal. Not having too much sun, but not having
not
too little.
sunbathing. I don't think that's a smart idea.
I mean, every now and then it's probably fine, especially if the body's been deprived or, you know, what I've learned now living in New York the last 9 years.
Yeah.
It's like I don't see sun for like 5 months. So, you know, if I'm traveling or when it's finally summer, like I'm out in the sunshine, like for high doses of time. But the environmental working group, they suggest, and this makes total sense, like if you want to protect your skin from the sun, then look for products like what sunscreen was meant to be made from in the beginning. So zinc oxide is one of the ingredients in it. So you can get pure zinc oxide, and that's going to protect your skin without having all the crazy like oxybenzoine. That's the one that causes cancer that they've proven. So yeah.
Lots of good natural companies out there that are just zinc oxide. I've definitely seen those.
Yep. And you can also make it at home too. And I've actually have a recipe in here for someone if they do have skin cancer. It's a serum that Mama Z, she's the wife of Dr. Z, Dr. Eric Zielinski, and they used this skin serum on their mom who had skin cancer. So this was really effective. So lots of recipes in here, not just for eating, but also topically as well. And yeah, it's a great book if someone just is diagnosed with cancer too, just to really read through quite quickly actually, and just learn about the top 15 foods on earth that have been proven to kill cancer cells, and then the top 15 worst foods on earth that have been proven to cause cancer cells. And I love that there's so many studies that actually do prove that certain foods have caused cancer cells, which of course the mainstream media try and keep out of view as much as they can, but they're there. We can dig them up and we can find them. And then half of the book is recipes, and also recipes for safe sugar cravings, because I found that a lot of people with cancer crave sugar like crazy, especially ones going through chemo and radiation, because the body's so imbalanced and they need that quick
And the sugar
fix.
helps the cancer cells grow.
It does. So the trick is to only eat the best kind of natural, most wholesome sugars if someone does have cancer, and definitely want to stay away from corn syrup and white sugar. So sticking to nature's candy, or, you know, candy that God intended us to eat, like fruit, is way more healing and nourishing for someone with cancer. So there's some great dessert recipes in there that I use to heal my body as well, like the chocolate brownies, also the cookie dough and the cashew cheesecake and the cashew ice cream.
So what do you think about the ketogenic diet?
So ketogenic diet for cancer is quite controversial, and there hasn't been a lot of case studies to prove that it's successful, but some people have been applying it to heal cancer, and for some it's working because they're completely not having sugar. So, you know, if they're not having sugar, they're saying they're starving the cancer, and they're enjoying eating a lot of fats. So again, it just depends on the body and where they're at. I found that keto works for people for up to 6 months, and after that, the body needs to normalize again, because it's not natural to stay eating keto for a whole lifetime. It might be just for a certain season or a certain amount of time, but that's not like a normal way to eat. You know, it's a great way to reset the body, detox, starve sugar out of the cells. Yeah.
So what about fruit in general? Do you think that fruit should be part of everyone's cancer healing diet or not?
I think it's personal to the person. Yeah. So I think for some people, having fruit would help heal their cancer, others not. So it really just depends where you're at. For me, I had a lot of fruit because I was so addicted to white sugar, and I was eating copious amounts of white sugar every single day. So I was like, well, how can I not crave white sugar anymore? So I was eating so much fruit. I was putting fruit in my juices, in my smoothies. I was making chocolate with honey and maple syrup. So I was eating a lot of natural sugars every single day, and still I was draining my lymphatic system, and still I was healing my body, and the tumor was dissolving, because that was a major upgrade from where I just came from, and I felt that's what worked for me. Others love to go cold turkey on sugar, and that works for them too. They're just like, nope, I'm done. I'm going to not have any sugar for like a month or ever, and that works. So it just depends on where the person's at. I could not comprehend giving up sugar cold turkey, and that's what I feel like kept me in that vicious food cycle for 5 years, because I kept thinking unrealistically, okay, on Monday, I'll never have sugar ever again. I'm going to be done. That never worked for me. But what worked was like, okay, well, how can I still have cookie dough for the rest of my life in the healthiest way possible? And that was having cookie dough that was sweetened with maple syrup or honey. And that's what worked for me.
Mm-hmm. And now we have like monk fruit. You just tried the monk fruit chocolate.
Love that.
Other
we have
things
stevia.
that you don't even need to use the maple syrup and honey too, and still get that sweet taste.
And even dates, you know, you can make the cookie dough recipe that I have in the book with dates as well, and just massage the tiger nut flour or the almond flour in with the dates. And the tiger nut flour is fascinating. I list tiger nuts as number 10 as the top anti-cancer food, because there were so many studies that showed how much it protects the liver and how much it detoxes the liver. And tiger nuts are fascinating because they're a root vegetable. They're not a nut. And we could all use more vegetables. There's only so much nuts the body can handle. So that's a great way to kind of phase nuts out, is to incorporate tiger nuts. And they got their nickname because of our paleo ancestors, because they look like little tiger nuts, literally. And they have the same amount of iron as red meat. So they're awesome for going more plant-based. They're awesome for vegan, vegetarians. And if you just blend tiger nuts in a Vitamix with some water, that's it. Tiger nuts and water. That's all you need. Blend that up for a few minutes, and you have white, thick, creamy milk that's naturally sweet, because tiger nuts are naturally sweet like a sweet potato. And I was explaining this to a host last week on News 12. She's like, I don't believe it. She's like, these tiger nuts right here, if I blend this with water, it's going to make a white, creamy, sweet milk. She's like, I don't believe it.
We're going to have a nut milk bag or anything?
You could strain it if you want, because it's quite fibrous, but no, you can drink it right there. So then I was like, okay, well, let me just show you. So we made it right there on the spot. We ended up filming that for News 12 in New York. And she was fascinated. She was like, what? This is so sweet. And tiger nuts are an anti-inflammatory, so that they're great. Whereas like almond milk and coconut milk can cause bloating, tiger nuts are very streamlined, and it was just naturally sweet. She was just like fascinated. Wow. So I just can't wait for more people to learn about tiger nuts and about tiger nut milk, and drinking that every day. It's just it's so beautiful too. It's just, they're so purifying and so refreshing and hydrating.
Oh, I need to get some tiger nuts. I remember you've told me about them. And Sacha Inchi also.
Yes.
What do you think of Sacha Inchi?
Sacha Inchi is a great antioxidant and source of protein. So that's another superfood, you know, that comes straight from earth. So my whole concept is like, let's look to nature and let's look to earth, or let's look to what God is giving us to heal. because it's all there, and stay away from the man-made things as much as possible. We're still going to indulge in that. Like, we wear clothing that's made by man. We have iPhones. You know, we live in cities. Like, that's enough man-made stuff. We need as much nature stuff as possible. So if we look at the abundance of everything that the earth provides naturally, such as inchi, tiger nuts, you know, blueberries, there's the kakadu plum that grows in outback Australia that has 50 times more vitamin C than oranges. You know, there's all these like cool things that are really there to support our health and our healing so that we can live beautiful, abundant lives.
It's amazing how much just the world naturally provides us with. It's like all of these little jewels and hidden corners, and each country has their own, right? Because you mentioned that alma is an Ayurvedic fruit that has also 50 or maybe more times vitamin C than oranges, and people just don't talk about it. And I think every culture probably has something like that, their own hidden vitamin C fruit gem that we just, you know, as a culture in America right now have somehow forgotten about, but it's always been here. So
yes,
it's exciting that they're coming out of the closet.
Yay, they are. Yeah, we really should focus on what's in our own environment, because anything that we can find that's in our own environment that's seasonal and local is going to give us the most energy and be the most nutrient rich.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the superfoods that I try to balance too, because I went like superfood crazy a couple years ago that I was like moringa and maki and acai and like everything. And it was like, okay, do I live in the Amazon right now?
Right,
You
right.
know, I'm eating
You're
all
like
of
pulling
these
all the
things.
different countries. You're like, here's some Bali and
some
Thailand,
maca, some chia seeds,
and Amazon.
Yeah,
I was
know,
just like,
the
it's too
UN
much.
in my
Yeah.
smoothie.
It's called the
I'm
UN
like,
smoothie.
Yeah, it's like creating global peace right here. I'm like some Israel and some Palestine superfoods in a smoothie. Now, look, they blended together so nicely. But then I was like, okay, yeah, none of this is native to here. So now I try to keep my smoothies really, really simple. I'm just doing spirulina right now, and that's it. And just kind of like playing around with just one ingredient at a time and not doing so many, because then I didn't even know it was working, you know, when you're doing so many different things. So yeah, people listening, don't feel like, oh my God, I need to spend all this money on all these superfoods and like buy them all. Like pick one that sounds good, intuitively sounds good to you, rock it, preferably if it is grown locally and seasonally to you. Like I know some people who they only use like essential oils that are like grown local to where they're from, like down to that. And I think there's such immense power in seeing what is indigenous to us.
Yes, immense power.
And then on top of that, your culture too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well said.
I love it. Well, there's so many awesome recipes in this book. I'm really excited. I mean, I just want to like look through it myself. And I think it's such a lovely gift also for someone who, you know, maybe has gone through cancer or is in that phase of their life right now, because it's not like a dreadful like book. It's actually really inspiring. Like, oh, I can eat chocolate chip cookies and pasta and this and that, all these things that I love, and my life is not over. It's actually just a beginning, because now I have all of these incredible tools that I'm going to eat, and it's going to be so exciting. So before you wrote this book, when we were talking about it, I was like, imagine going to the hospital and giving this to all of the people in the cancer ward. And
yes.
I'm so excited for that to actualize very soon.
Yay. I know it's coming up so soon. And that's so true. Like the last thing you want to do if you have cancer is think, oh, I can never eat my favorite foods again. And that just doesn't work. That just creates so much dread in the soul and the body. So thinking, okay, well, I can still eat chips or fries or cheese, like whatever is your favorite foods, but in a more natural, nourishing way. And how's that possible? Then all of a sudden it opens up new doors, and all of a sudden you're excited rather than feeling dreadful about living.
So very true. And the only reason why we eat these unhealthy foods in the first place is because of the taste. And that's it. So if we're able to see that you can get that same taste, but even better somewhere else. And, you know, the people listening to this podcast know that already, but maybe it's your mom or your dad or your friend or your neighbor or whoever it is who's like, I can't give up my favorite food. So if you just show them this, that you don't have to, could be so powerful.
That always wins them over. Like find out whatever it is their favorite food is, whether it's cookie dough or ice cream or cheese, chocolate peanut butter cups. I'll make it for that person so that they can try it and say, okay, here's an example. And they're like, whoa, okay, great. I didn't know. And that opens up the door for them. And then,
So exciting. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. And where can people connect with you and get your awesome new book?
Yay. Or people can type in cancerfreewithfood.com. So that's the website for the book. And then also you can look me up on Instagram, Liana Werner-Gray, or just Google me, Liana Werner-Gray, and all my handles will come up. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you, and just let me know that you listen to the Sahara podcast, and we'll chat online.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom again.
Thanks for having me. Bye, guys.
How beautiful of a soul is Liana. I always call her my fairy godmother because she's such a fairy. She's just a cancer healing fairy, just going around sprinkling her pixie dust and healing cancer. It's wonderful. An interesting story is I was messaged by Layla Ali, Muhammad Ali's daughter. I was on her podcast and she asked me, do you know anyone that can help heal cancer? And I actually thought of Liana, and this is like last year. And essentially, she said that she's been tagged in this picture of this young boy. He was about 7 to 9 years old, boy who lived in the inner city, who had cancer, and his family couldn't afford treatment, and they were looking for alternative ways to heal him. So I told Liana about this boy. I was like, do you know anything that could help? And she's like, why don't you just connect me with him directly? I was like, okay. I mean, you see these like posts on Facebook and stuff, but she's like, oh, let me just talk to them. And so she got in touch with the boys' parents and helped them, would go on the phone with them, tell them how to make green juice. They had never even heard of green juice before. And the boys started drinking 6 glasses of green juice a day. The whole entire family changed their diet to be extremely alkalizing, plant-based, because that was the right diet that they needed. And the family ended up leaving the inner city and moving to Hawaii so they could all commit to their healing and living life in touch with the rhythms of the earth and deeply connected to nature. So that is just the kind of person Liana is, to like literally just change a life like that, just so effortlessly. And that's why I'm so stoked to share her message with you. So check out her book, Cancer Free with Food. It's an awesome book to give to someone that you know that has been affected by cancer or has cancer in their family or simply just wants to live a healthier life. I love the recipes. I highly recommend it. And I know that you will love it just as much as I do. If you loved this episode, I would love to share with you the first half of my unreleased book, Eat Right for Your Mind Body Type, which is different from my book, Eat Feel Fresh. It is my unreleased, never to be released book because it is now part of my Eat Right for Your Mind Body Type program. I would love to send it to you absolutely free. All you got to do is leave me a review in the iTunes store, take a screenshot and email it over to me at Sahara@eatfeelfresh.com. Again, take a screenshot of the review and email it to me at Sahara@eatfeelfresh.com. And I will send you the first half of my unreleased book, Eat Right for Your Mind Body Type. Namaste.